I'm the Secretary of Co-ops New South Wales. We're a long-time peak body for cooperative enterprise and cooperatives. We're based in New South Wales, but we now have members across in Queensland and Victoria, because there aren't really similar bodies to us anymore doing what we do. We have about 85 cooperatives that are our members, and across all different industries, from fishing to childcare to ski lodges to all sorts, to an orchestra, and we exist to support them and promote them and represent them and help them. So I think every session sort of had a co-op straight person talking, and maybe it was Robin earlier on, and I'm probably that one. So I am going to talk specifically about the co-op sector rather than the broader space. But yeah, we have about 85 members, and that's what I'm employed to do, is to support them. That now didn't change when it did before. And then
there, try it now.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So just a little about more about what we do. We help people to set up and register new cooperatives. So that's one part of my role. But then we run governance training to help people govern, and for managers of cooperatives. We help people with their rules and their policies and that sort of back-end type stuff. We do strategic planning from a cooperative perspective, help them to resolve conflict, because yes, sometimes there's conflicts in co-ops, but just as much as there are in every other structure. And we also help them to close them. So I've run ballots where we've actually had votes of members to close co-ops. So we do the full life cycle. We also talk to government on their behalf, and we also help them to network, which I didn't include there, where we run a conference every year to help them connect, and that's coming up in June, and I'm sure you'll hear about it. I thought I could tell you, co-ops are a lot about stories, and I thought I chose 3 of our member co-ops just to tell you a bit of their story, so that they have fantastic stories, and getting to understand and work through the beauty of co-ops is really largely through this story. So I'm going to tell you 3 of our co-op stories. I can tell you many more in breaks or whenever if you'd like to corner me. So on the left of this panel is the sort of corporate side of allied health in Australia. And this co-op is called Pods Equity, or it's called the Podiatry Co-op, and it's on the other side. I don't know if people know the allied health sector in Australia. You probably haven't focused on it too much, but a chap called Glenn Richards started up Green Cross on the left. He's a vet from Queensland, and he grew that into an enormous corporation, buying up and taking over small veterinary practices across Australia, or most of Australia. He's a very effective operator, and he's scaled it, but not all the vets who sold their practices to Glenn have ended up being happy and satisfied in the result. Obviously, they've lost control of their practice, and once they're in the Green Cross machine, they haven't always been as happy as they were. Green Cross eventually, it was a listed corporation. They picked up pet barns, so they do all the pet stuff as well. And then eventually, private equity in the US, TPG, bought them out and now owns them. So that's one side. Glenn also thought, well, if I can do it in vets, I can do it in physios, I can do it in podiatry. And that's the second slide. So there's now Healthier, which is the vehicle that they're doing the same model into podiatry and into physios. And My Foot Doctor is the vehicle in podiatry. Pods Equity, set up last year and set up by podiatrists and a couple of entrepreneurs. And the idea is to present an alternative model owned and controlled by podiatrists. And so there's a co-op sitting underneath the project. There's 70, 80 odd podiatrists who are members at the moment, and they're working to provide all the, to do the supply side stuff, all the purchasing together, but also into the products as well. And they have ideas to have shoe stores. They purchase together on telecoms and all sorts of ideas. But it's a way that through a cooperative, they're able to give the podiatrists back the control of their industry. So that's the first. I'm allowed to step out of the area. Just want to keep track of the time a bit, because I could go on all day. Great. So that's the first one I wanted to tell you about, Pods Equity. Look them up. If there's a podiatrist in the room, join up. The second one I wanted to talk to you about was Food Next Door Co-op. So it's based in Mildura, in northwestern Victoria. And I'll tell you just quickly their story. They were a group of people in Mildura who wanted quality, sustainably produced, locally produced food. There was very little of that in Mildura, some large corporate agriculture, and even more in the few years they've been around, exporting most of their produce or sending it to Melbourne and to Adelaide. So they were looking at this problem. They thought, right, well, we'd like to have locally grown, sustainably produced food. There was some of it around, but they needed more. They needed access to land, and they needed people who were able to farm it. And most of them, some of them were farmers, but most of them couldn't farm. At the same time, there's a lot of vacant land in Mildura, a lot of land that isn't being used. And so they hatched the idea to set up an organisation that would secure access to land, would find people to farm it, and then would sell the produce for the farmers into the local community. It's going gangbusters. So they have a veggie box system at the moment that they sell into the local community. They have a number of farms that they've established, and the people that are farming the land, all sorts of different groups, including community of Burundian refugees who have ended up there, and also a group of Congolese refugees who have ended up there, who have ended up in Mildura through the refugee program, and are fantastic farmers and know how to farm. So it's a real, an amazing project. In the co-op world, it's a multi-stakeholder co-op. So there's 4 types of members of the co-op. So the landowners are members, the farmers are members, the purchasers, the shoppers are members, and the volunteers are all members. They have different rules as to how to remain as active members, and it's a fantastic, fantastic co-op to see. And they're really driving or trying to drive a new food economy in Mildura. They've recently received a $600,000 grant from the Victorian government. Not through any program, but the Victorian government heard about them and decided to support them, and they're through that going from strength to strength. Cubs can be for-profit, not-for-profit. They're a not-for-profit one, or a non-distributing one, and really another project worth looking at. They've got people around Australia offering them land to run, and they're just not able to handle that yet. But people have heard about them around Australia and are wanting to do what for them to set up in their place. The third one I want to talk about, it's another of our members. It's a large cooperative up on the mid-north coast, Port Macquarie. So it's unlike the other two, which are new. This one's a long-established one from 1916, originally a dairy co-op, but as they no longer could continue in dairy, they looked around to see what their community needed, and they've become a really diversified retailer in their town, and they're based in Wauchope, but down the road is the bigger town of Port Macquarie, and that's where they've got a lot of interest as well. So some of the original farmers are still members and have large shareholdings, but most of the members now are people who shop at their various businesses. So they do fuel, they do supermarkets, they do the bottle shop, they do the department store, they do a whole range. I think in Wauchope they would easily have a majority of the revenue of everything that's spent in the town and in the local strip. They, if you go through the town, that you can only see Hastings Co-op logo everywhere. They do hardware. They've even got into a franchise for car hire now. They're really just every few months there's a new business that they've taken on. So they've spread into Port Macquarie. They've got a very large IGA supermarket in a place called Sovereign Hills, a new suburb. And they've got a number of sort of innovative features like a creche for shoppers and other things in that new supermarket, which is really state of the art in the world of IGAs. But yeah, a great co-op as well. That's just 3 of them. I've got just some of the other co-ops that are our members or will be our members, give you a little bit more of a range of the co-op. Down the bottom left, Labour Co is a cooperative set up to get people jobs, get people out of unemployment. It's based in Newcastle and Tamworth. Moorby, up from them, is an Aboriginal language and culture cooperative. They produce dictionaries of Aboriginal languages all up the mid-north coast and north coast of New South Wales. Hopsters Cooperative Brewery, are they providing beer today, Andrew? No, but I'd declare an interest that I'm one of the 580 odd members of Hopsters Cooperative Brewery, about to open their tap room in Enmore, just not far from here, and brewing their beer, the first cooperative brewer in Australia. Cooperative Life is a disability home care and hopefully soon aged care and other home care workers cooperative, so owned by the workers in the industry. Fantastic, dynamic organisation that's growing very fast at the moment. Furniture One's a long time cooperative of furniture stores, about 30 odd across New South Wales and I think into Victoria. Bowral Co-op's a rural supplies one in Bowral, just did a whole lot of stuff in the post bushfires. CMAC, we'll hear from Robert later, is the metal manufacturing workers co-op in Western Sydney. Plumbing supplies is a massive one, and the orchestra's down the bottom. Maybe I should stop, but if you want to ask about any of those or any of our other members, don't hesitate to. We're okay. Okay, I better keep going. I just wanted to try and bring it a little bit together. Co-ops are the only, co-ops in the end are just a structure. Although we're a whole family and a philosophy and a movement, we are really, in the end, just a structure. You can choose company, you can choose partnership, whatever, but we are the only structure with values and principles, and that's the point I want to make. We're a principled structure to choose for your entity. We're strictly member-owned and controlled. There's no way around that, and that makes us focused on members' benefit. It's a crucial question when you're setting up a co-op as to who are the members, and we are purely focused on that, and it is the members who control and will always control the co-op. Members must also actively support the co-op. There's always a rule in the co-op where they need to do something to maintain their membership, otherwise they'll lose it. Setting that threshold is a key question. Co-ops are much securer than most corporate entities in most environments, and they have that long-term, that inherently have that long-term focus. They're nearly always local and community-based, and there is a real family. Part of my work is to make sure that co-ops are helping other co-ops across, and you will find that other co-ops will help each other. When in most other commercial environments, you won't find that. And if they don't help you, then come and see me and I'll talk to them about it. The final thing is just to talk a little bit about the structure. It's long established. It's been around for, 1840s in England, but certainly legislative in Australia for more than 100 years in various forms. And so it's a long tested and long established structure. That's a real benefit. It's fundamentally democratic, but it's also fundamentally flexible. Don't believe it when people say, oh, you know, it can't be, you couldn't do that in a co-op, or you couldn't do that in a co-op. You can do that in a co-op. It is really flexible, and it fits nearly every industry. It's hard to find, you know, an economic problem to solve that you can't solve with a co-op. They can be for-profit, they can be not-for-profit, and the whole span that whole spectrum. And they're the people in the co-op sector talk about us being the original social enterprise, and it's already been talked about today. And we are the logical place, I think, for social enterprise, for commons movements things. We are the bedrock that can be the base for those sort of initiatives.